Guys, I have scoured the internet. I have found all the meta builds that I could find. I've watched streams. I've looked at leaderboards. I've played the game a lot, gotten a feel for it myself. And here we are. I have a trade offer to give you. I tell you the comps, you gain LP. Let's get it. All right, let's talk about this. Skirmisher Jax. All right, skirmishers, guys, they're taking over the meta right now. Remember, this is like day 2 of the patch, depending on where you live. Day 1, day 2. So if you're watching this like second week of the patch, take some of what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But if you're trying to make the early patch grind, this is what's been working. This is what I've seen work for other people, what's been working for me, and what from me scouting the leaderboards, this is what I found. Jax is just dominating the meta right now. Maybe something will come out that'll just be a hard counter to Jax and make him not meta, but Jax is dominating the meta right now. The reason why he's dominating the meta is because they nerfed everything and they buffed a lot of the units in this build, like in Dragon Slayer, stuff like that. It's just stuff that works nicely with the build. And obviously Vayne is gone, so we don't have to worry about our frontline team getting one shot. Okay, so let's talk about some of this stuff. If you see me looking up over my monitor, I'm just looking at some notes that I took. So some item starts for this build. If you want to force this build, item start is going to be cloak, sword, glove, and bow. Those are all going to be good starts. If you can't get any of those, just whatever. Doesn't really matter. But cloak is going to be a really good start because your core items on Jax are going to be either version of Runeends, either version of QSS, and a Bloodthirster, not the Wrist Thirster. Wrist Thirster is okay, but the shield is really nice on Jax, and having the upfront survivability with his base shield is really, really, really nice as well. You can run either version of Runeends or QSS. It doesn't really matter that much. Don't focus too much on best in slot. Just try to get these items. If you want to do RFC, it's okay, but you know, he still gets flung by Syndra. He still gets CC'd by Rel. I definitely think this is the better approach over here if you want to play Jax. This is, you roll it down on 7 if you want to play this board. When you go to 8, you can add in D-Slayers if you want to. You can play any skirmishers you want. I would play the 2 D-Slayers, though. They're very good. When you go to 8, you can play 4 D-Slayer if you want to do that. You can add in Iron Chads, or you can just tech in some Mystics or whatever you want to really run. But the core thing is to play the 6 skirmishers. There is a version of this build if you want to run 3 skirmishers with a bunch of high value units. Maybe you want to do like 3 skirmisher, 4 D-Slayer, something like that with some really high value units. You can totally do that. Some other things that are good in this build, if you want a GA Morello, a Kennen, that is always good. Some positioning stuff. Just position Jax wherever you want to. Honestly, just wherever you want, wherever he can get through to the backline early enough. Just make sure he's not stuck on a super tank. And if you need to delete some super tanks, then you can just put Trundle in front of the super tank, put Jax right next to it, and Trundle will just shred whoever Jax is attacking. Some other nice positioning things you guys can do is if you want to put Pantheon in front of their DPS, it can block a lot of damage, make a lot of stall. Or you can just put him in front of another super tank just to apply the healing reduction on them as well and keep your Jax safe. You can just put Jax next to him to keep people from aggroing your Jax. So some things where you can upgrade the build is just think about positioning Jax, Trundle, and Pantheon, and that's some ways that you can upload the build. All right, let's go to our next build right here. I'm just on a build maker website. By the way, none of these are in any particular order, except for the Jax build is definitely the build that is dominating the meta right now. Okay, so let's talk about a build that actually does pretty decently into the Jax and spikes at the same time. A lot of these builds I'm going to be showing you guys right here are going to be builds that spike on 7. The reason why is because whatever the strongest build is, whenever that build spikes, you need to spike with it. So that's why last patch, it was a lot of roll on 6, roll on 7, because Vayne was spiking on 6, right? And so this patch, skirmishers are spiking on 6 and 7. So we need, if you're not going to play skirmishers at the beginning of the patch, you need to play something. You need to either be high rolling and be able to get the fast 8 to get late game boards, or you need to be playing something that can spike at the same time and does well into it. So a build that I've been playing a lot, this is actually my go-to build right now, is Redeemed Varus. I love Redeemed Varus. It's so fun. So if you want to play Redeemed Varus, or a game that looks like Redeemed Varus start, you want to start Glove, Rod, or Defensive Item after that. But I always try to get Glove. Glove is pretty uncontested a lot of times, especially if you're playing in low elo. Nobody knows what to do with gloves. So you can get this build a lot of the time, and it comes online pretty early. Okay, so item holders for this build early game. Obviously, if you just have Varus, just item hold on Varus. But if you can't play Varus, Callista is a unit that's really good to item hold because it fits really nicely in Redeemed until you hit your Varus. And then also, if you just don't hit any of those, you can play Vayne. You can play Vayne as your early game carry and then slowly transition to Redeemed. But when you play Redeemed, you kind of want to try to play Redeemed early. So that's why if you can't play Varus, Callista is going to be really good, because the core units that you want to play around early game with this build is going to be Syndra, Leona, and Aatrox, who's not currently on here because later in the game you switch out Aatrox. But those are the 3 units you want to play around early game to get your Redeemed in, because they're really easy to get and they're all really strong units early game. And whether you're playing Callista carry, if you're playing Callista carry, then you got Legionnaire through Aatrox in the early game. If you're playing Varus, well, he's redeemed and you can just tech in any ranger that you find at level 4, level 5. So yeah, so early game, play around Callista, Varus, and Vayne as your carries, but the core units of this build early game are going to be Syndra, Leona, and Aatrox. So buy those if you see them, if you're trying to play this build, or if you get a good item opener for this build and you wanna push into it. This build, you're going to roll it down on 7. If you're really low rolling, roll it down on 6. I just had a game where I probably should have rolled on 6. I ended up 6th placing, lost at the same round as 3rd through 6, and I just had less HP because I didn't spike early enough into the game, kind of a high roll lobby. So if you're really low and you want to just play for top 4, you can roll at 6, but if you want to try to play for top 2, top 3, first place, something like that, I have first place with this Varus build. Then you will want to roll on 7. You will want to roll on 7 to get this item, to get this online. You can play any ranger here, but obviously Kindred is going to be your best ranger because she gives you Mystic. But at level 6, basically you just play 6 redeem, or not level 6, at level 7 you basically just play the redeemed units and you'll play a ranger. Alternatively, if you have a 2-star Nautilus and maybe you have like a Rage Blade on your Varus, then instead of playing Rage Blade on your Varus, or instead of playing Ranger, you would play like Iron Chads. If you have your Rel and a 2-star Nautilus, and then you would add Ranger in at 8. Just whichever one you want to add in on 8, you add it on 8. Or if you have a magic damage heavy lobby, then you just don't play Nautilus at all, and then you end up inputting a Mystic instead, and maybe you want to play like 3 Mystic or something. But you do want to have a lot of frontline in this build because you do want a lot of stall for your Varus, because damage does come out semi-slow, comes out like medium speed, and then Velcas damage comes out pretty slow, and Velcas can be your second carry in this build even without any items. It does feel very nice. You can early carry Leona with if you get a tank item start, these items that are on Rel, you can just slam these exact items on your Leona. She can carry your early game, and then you can transition out of Leona and add the items to your Rel, and you can just keep Leona, remake a new Leona, or you can just keep the items on your Leona. Leona actually feels super good in 6 redeemed, like even though she's a 1 cost, she feels super good in 6 redeemed. Now, if you get a redeem spat, usually I like to tech in a Taric over my Leona, so I'll end up dropping Leona for Taric with a redeem spat. You can do it in a lot of different ways. You can redeem like a Mystic instead, or a Ranger. I played a game where I played a redeemed Ashe, and she was dealing 1k damage with her ults, which was kind of cool, but I ended up transitioning into redeemed Taric because I hit a Kindred and a 2-star Taric. Redeemed Taric is really, really nice because he gets all those juicy tank stats, but he also gets the AP stats. So whenever he ults, it'll heal like 2k around him. So if he hits your whole team, that can be, you can heal like 6k or something with 1 cast. It's actually really insane, and the tanky stats give him enough tankiness to make sure that he casts, because the biggest problem with Taric is he's really strong, but he hardly ever casts. So yeah, so Redeem Spat can be really, really good in this build, and it's sleeper OP on Taric, but you could just put it on Garen or your Ranger or whoever you want to at level 8. You can stay on 7 and roll for Varus 3-star, but a lot of my games I've just played for top 3 or top 2 with a 2-star Varus. Alternatively, if you are just high rolling out of your mind, you can just try to go fast 9 with 2-star Varus after you stabilize your board on 7, and then end up transitioning to a legendary board or into a KO board if that's what you really want to. Most of the way my games have played out, though, is everyone's playing very aggressive at 7, so I end up playing just super aggressive, end up with a 2-star Varus, go 8, and sometimes I 3-star on 8, sometimes I don't, and I just eke out a 2nd through 4th place if I don't 3-star my Varus. But if you 3-star your Varus, you can definitely first place with this build. It is definitely first placeable. All right, let's go on to the next build here. We're going to go to Redeemed Velcas. Maybe you've noticed a trend. Maybe you noticed a trend. Linear synergies, 6-unit synergies. The reason why you might be seeing more 6-unit synergies is just because when the game is more fast-paced it benefits playing easier builds. It benefits playing straightforward builds. Because you don't have as much time in the game to stabilize if the meta is not fast 8. First patch of this set, it was fast 8, fast 9. You'd have a lot of times to play early game, play mid game, play late game. But right now, it's really all about that mid to late game transition and how you play it. And I really think on this patch, at least so far, since Jax is setting the pace of the meta, that it's going to be best to play builds that can spike on 7 with Jax, can do well into them. I find this Redeem build actually does pretty well, and Velcas does pretty decent, as long as you have really good stall for the Velcas. So let's talk about the Velcas build. So your item start is going to be glove tier, rod, defensive. The reason why I do glove tier is because that gives you the most flexible option. So if you take glove, you can just play Varus if you get the Varus items. You can just play Varus, or you can play Velcas, just whichever one you like to play. They use very similar items. Even Sojin works on Varus if you're just not hitting your Velcas. So that's why I like taking glove. The reason I like tier start second, even though there's only one tier in my core item build that I have right here, the reason why I do like tier as well is because the idea that you can flex to karma, but that's only if you're comfortable enough to flex to karma invoker board if you're not hitting your Velcas, or maybe you just hit perfect items for that and you run like brand early game, transition to karma. I would only start tier if you're comfortable with flexing between karma and Velcas. If you're not, then I would just start glove or rod and just play flex between Velcas and Varus as your mid and late game carry. So I'd like that. You're still gonna roll it down on 7. You're gonna roll until you hit 6 redeemed. In Velcas 1, typically that'll stabilize you mid game. If you have Velcas items and you get 6 redeemed, with a lot of those redeems being 2-starred, that'll generally stabilize you mid game. And then you can push levels to 8 to 2-star your Velcas and start adding some value to your board. So your level 6 board will look like these units. It's set for, you'll be playing Spellweaver with it. But if you're not getting a lot of value out of Spellweaver, you don't have enough stall for your team, then you can play Nautilus or a Mystic at level 7 for more stall. But typically I usually play Zyra on level 7, and then I add my more stall units on level 8 when I would need more frontline a little bit later into the game. But just do whatever you need in that game. At 8, you can add Iron Chad, Spellweaver, Mystic, whatever you want. Spatula can give you a lot of value in this build because you do have a chance to play 4 Spellweaver if you get a spat. You can play 3 Iron Chad. You can play a bunch of Mystics. So Spatula can be really, really, really high value in this build. So yeah, you can play Redeem Spat, you can play Spellweaver Spat, you can play Iron Chad Spat, or you play Redeem Spat, tech in some more Mystics, you reverse a lot of magic damage. So you can get a lot of value off of those items. Boom and boom. Best in slot on this guy, it's just Sojin AP +1. So if you want to have Gunblade, that's fine. If you want to have more damage, that's fine. Just key thing, focus on mana and damage. That's what Velcas needs. Sojin is way better than blue buff, but blue buff is definitely playable if you're not comfortable playing Karma, and that's all that you get. All right, let's go to our next board. Next board that we're going to talk about is Nocturne Sins. I have not personally played this board on this patch. I played this board last patch. I got a big buff this patch because Nocturne actually heals properly with his additional AD items. And I've seen a lot of other people play this comp to success already this patch. So this is going to be a 6-sin, 2 Revenant board. This is what level 7 looks like. And I know you're like, well, I don't get 6-sin on level 7, but we'll talk about it, okay? Item start for this is going to be glove, sword, bow, tier. Any of those in that order, and then you can do defensive after that. So it doesn't really matter. But gloves is going to be super good in this build because key items that you want to have on your Nocturne is you want to have an IE. Either version of the item is going to be great. I'm not too certain which one is better at the moment, but depending on how some of your other shadow items are going to shake out, you just don't want to have too many shadow items because then your Nocturne will just be too low survivability. So that's why I didn't put shadow item on any of these, but you could shadow item any of these 3 items, but just make sure you don't shadow all of them because then he'll be so squishy. But essentially what you need on Nocturne is you need IE. Like IE is going to give you so much value with Assassin buff. Next thing you need is some type of CC immunity or survivability, which is going to be QSS, or you can build RFC if you want to. I've seen it pop off. So QSS, either version, or RFC, just the base version. Don't do the upgraded one. And then you need attack speed. So whether you want to do Rage Blade or whether you want to do, just RFC as your attack speed, that can work. It's not super high value, but it can work for sure. If you want to do Rage Blade or if you want to do Shadow Zeeks, those are all great. Some of your units don't really need that much of attack speed anyways. On sends like Katarina, stuff like that, don't really need too much attack speed. So this is what a level 7 board looks like. You try to get Ivern in as quick as possible. If you're not hitting 6 sends, just play off your synergies, like add more Revenants, add Renewers, add Forgottens, that sort of thing. Or if you're just hitting strong units and you're pushing 8s, you can just play strong frontline like Iron Chads, Knights, Cavaliers, that sort of thing. But you really want to have something that looks like this on 7 or 8 and just add more Revenants or Renewers. You can even play Coven Sins if you start to get cat items, or you want to buff up, you just want to buff up your cat anyways. You can just pivot to Coven Sins, which is our next build we're going to talk about. But yeah, in this build, these are going to be good items on cat, blue buff, shadow GA, IE. These are going to be good items as secondary carry for cat in this specific build, but the build's going to be looking a little bit differently if we go into the next thing. If you want to item hold somebody for Nocturne items, good item holders are going to be any of the assassins. You can just item hold a different assassin until you hit Nocturne, then sell and remake. Rangers, Callista. This is going to be another build. You're going to roll it down on 7, can side carry cat, and all that good stuff. So let's move on to our final build that we're going to be doing. It's our final build, and it's going to be Coven Sins. We're going to talk about some honorable mention builds in just a second, but this is going to be Coven Sins right here. This is going to be a roll on 7 board. I'm pretty sure you guys, if you've been playing the last patch, you should be familiar with this build already. Essentially, you play Coven, but instead of buffing your LeBlanc, you're going to be buffing Katarina. You can play LeBlanc as a side carry, or you can main carry LeBlanc with the old LeBlanc build with blue buff or shadow blue buff. GA and then damage. You can totally carry LeBlanc if that's what you want to do and you have amazing items to play it. But the best version of this build currently is going to be Katarina, and Katarina 3-star just got buffed. So let's talk about this build. Item start's going to be glove, sword, etc. So if you just can't get either of those, just grab a rod, grab a tier, just grab whatever. It doesn't really matter. But you do want to start like glove or sword, because this build does use a lot of gloves, a lot of swords. Items you're going to be looking for that are going to be very high priority for you are going to be GA, Morello, GA, either version of Hodge, and IE. Best items that's going to be on Katarina is going to be IE or Shadow IE. It's going to be super good. Now, why are we not building blue buff on this version of Katarina? It's because we're covening her. So she gets a lot of mana just off of Coven cast. So it's not like blue buff is bad in this build. It's just you can play a little bit more to play damage. I've also seen people just play GA Hodge and first place with a 3-star cat. I've seen it work, but the key thing, you need some type of survivability, an infinity edge, and then whatever you want there. You want more damage, you want more healing, you want more survivability. Shadow Hodge just kind of does both. It gives you damage, gives you a little bit of survivability. So whatever you want to have third item there, you want to have a blue buff there, you want to do that, you want to coven someone else, that's fine. Play what you want. If you're really emphatic about different items, that's fine. But this is the best setup that I've seen working, and all this good stuff. So this is a level 7 board right here. At 8, you can add more Revenants or add more Mystics usually, or maybe you can add the HIV comp. Maybe you get Heimerdinger in here. Maybe you get some decent items for him. Maybe you're high rolling, you get Heimerdinger Volibear. You can totally do that. You can transition out of at 8 you can transition out of Coven to play Heimerdinger, Ivern, Volibear, 6N. Or just Ivern Volibear 6N. You can transition out of this Coven build if you want to, but this Coven build does feel very nice. So a lot of times you just don't transition out because it'll, there's a big risk involved in transitioning out. Cool. Guys, that's going to be all the builds. Let's talk about some honorable mentions real quick. These are builds that I've seen a lot of people play and maybe meta later in the patch. Maybe they're not quite solved, quite figured out, but these are some builds that I've seen played and have seen some success. Legionnaire builds. 6 and standard. Legionnaire builds, 6 Legionnaire. I have tried it a lot. I've had a hard time making it work. I have had best in slot Riven items, best in slot Yasuo items with 6 Legionnaire. Really early getting them. Best in slot Mord items. I've actually tried this build quite a bit. The only version I can even see the light of it working of 6 Legionnaire is best in slot Mordekaiser items. And you have to dodge Trundle wherever he is, because that is the only version of this build that I have found that I can regularly beat the Jax player. Is if I have best in slot Mordekaiser items, which is like QSS, it's just QSS damage tank. That's really what you need. QSS damage tank. Don't think too much about it. But I would not force that build, guys. I would try to play one of these other 5 builds. The big thing is like this build can stabilize on 7, but you're really playing the lottery on whether you're going to get Mordekaiser items, whether you're going to get Mordekaiser 2-star on 7, which is really playing the lottery. I don't personally like the build very much, but some people are still fortunate and finding success. Standard Legionnaire, I have not seen anyone play this, but I have seen some other people say it's sleeper and people aren't playing it. So what I mean by Standard Legionnaire is the standard Draven, Mordekaiser, 3 Forgotten, plus Mystic Iron Chads, tanks, that sort of thing. So it's playing around Draven, Mordekaiser, 3 Forgotten. I've seen some other people say it's doing well, saying it's sleeper. I have not seen it in any of my games, and I have not personally played it. That's why it's not on my list. But guys, if you need a Draven guide to play standard 2 Legionnaire, 3 Forgotten build, I do have a Draven guide on my channel. So if you guys want to check that out, you totally can. I'll leave a link somewhere, comment section, description, something like that. Kale Knights or Fast 9 redeemed, or Fast 9 6 redeemed into Kale. So 6 redeemed, Fast 9 into Kale. I've heard whispers of this build being strong. It would make complete sense that it would be strong, because essentially what you would do to play this build is you look for Kale items, which are GA, Rageblade, Hodge, or Gunblade. And basically what you do is you just slam those items on Varus. You slam those items on Varus. You roll it down to get 6 redeemed mid game. You win streak mid game, or you stay strong. You go to 8. You roll it down. You try to hit Kale. If you don't hit Kale, you take your fourth, fifth, sixth place with your scuffed Varus build. That is the Kale build. I can't imagine. I haven't seen people play this, but I've heard whispers that this comp is still good. And I have a lot of friends who actually one-trick this comp. So, and they're still finding some success playing it. Karma Invokers. So if you end up wanting to play Karma, you have a stable early and mid game, and you transition into Karma. You play Invokers. That build's still going to be super strong. Playing Karma with Heimerdinger, Ivern, Volibear. That build is still going to be super strong. That build's still regularly first places. It's just a little harder to get there because of all the people. Reroll Spellweavers. I've heard whispers of this as well. Playing Velcas as your main carry, but also playing around restarring like a Victor, a Brand, and maybe teching in some A-bombs, or maybe you tech in just redeemed Iron Chads with your Velcas. So just kind of whatever you're hitting. I've heard whispers of this build. I have not seen it pop off too hard. A-bomb Draconic. So they did change A-bomb to where it actually works on ZZ Rot, stuff like that. So it is actually a little bit better, but it's definitely tuned down from what it was on PB. If you ever played it on PB, it's not that OP. I have actually played a game of this and top forward, but I definitely high rolled the build. You don't really play Set as the carry anymore in this build. You still can if you're high rolling, you got good Set items. But it's like old Draconic, old A-bomb Draconic. You play like damage dealers on, like your DPSs are going to be Ashe, Zyra. Just get some Sojins, spell crit, Rageblade on your Zyra, get a Rageblade on your Ashe and damage. And you play around like 2 Ranger, 2 Mystic, 2 Brawler, 3 A-bomb. Play around that stuff, and if you can get some ZZ Rots to stack on your A-bombs, then you can buy a lot of time, buy a lot of stall. It's a very annoying build. I have played this one game. It felt okay. I could see it being OP because I am not really the best that version of Draconic gamer. I could see it being OP, so if you guys want to try another patch, you can, but I would stick to the first 5 comps that I showed you guys. Again, guys, this is the beginning of the patch, so there's going to be some builds that I don't know yet, that are undiscovered builds that people are abusing to climb. These are not all the builds, but these are the builds that I've seen. Oh, another build that I didn't mention was Yasuo build. If you want to try the 6 Nightbringer Yasuo build, you can totally do it. I don't think it's that good, but I've seen people top 2. I've seen people win lobbies with it at 3-star. At 3-star, I've seen them win lobbies. It's definitely a tempo build, a build that spikes on 7. I have been scarred from trying to play Yasuo and never hitting Yasuo 2-star on 7. But if you want to play the Yasuo build, go give it a try. I've seen it work for some people, but most of the time I still just lose to the Jax player, so I do not recommend the build. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned. I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys are having a good day, a good night, wherever you are at. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, reminder that I stream every day. Streams on the link. Streams there. I stream nearly every day. You guys can follow me on there. That's where most of my content is, actually. So anyways, appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Have a good night wherever you are. Hope you're doing well. And I'll see you on the next video or the next stream. Bye. See ya.